What's up everyone? Alex Corey here with cultivatedchange.com. Today we are up on the Blue Ridge Parkway. Put a bunch of shots of the gloriousness that is the Parkway. If you've never been here, it's basically a highway that cuts through the mountains all the way through western North Carolina into Virginia. I think it dips into Tennessee or North Georgia, and behind me is the expanse of western North Carolina. I forgot this overlook existed, so we did a couple different shots and this is the one we landed on. We're continuing Cultivating Change series today, and we are going over the stop, start, change model of behavior change, which is the one I like to utilize because you can get a lot changed in your lifestyle. So if you stop doing something that you've always wanted to, if you start a new habit, and if you change something. Changing is the hardest one. So today we're going over the only real behavior mechanism that works for changing an ingrained neurological habit, which is pattern interruption. As a side note, we just passed Mount Pisgah and we actually can't see it because we're right behind it. Actually, the tower might be right there. We're actually on the shoulder of Mount Pisgah, and I'll give you a shot of it. I'm staring at the fire tower on top of it right now, which is pretty cool. So the Parkway actually runs right alongside the edge of it and then drops back down. We're probably around 5,500, maybe 5,000 feet right now. Anyway, we're going over I do apologize for the noise, but the view behind me is definitely worth the noise of cars. We're going over pattern interruption. So if you are changing an existing habit, you don't have to do this with starting a new habit. You might do it for stopping one. Starting is easy because there's no existing neurological networks there, so you're building them from scratch. So I love it when people ask to start new things because there's no real barrier there other than actually doing it and finding the time, which is hard enough. But if someone wants to stop doing something, for instance, if you want to, this works really well for panic attacks, or if you have anxiety, which I've struggled with in the past. So you're going to have to find a trigger, as in you're going to have to be self-aware enough and sort of analyze afterwards the logical progression of what happened in your brain. Something will happen. You will read something, you will be scrolling, there will be a first neurological trigger that you will feel, and you can almost feel the end result. So it's easier to think about for positive associations. So if you, let's say vaping or something with a dopamine kick at the end, most people don't want to keep vaping, but when you start thinking about vaping, that little neurological network will fire and you will anticipate the good feeling at the end of it, even if that no longer exists, even if you're chasing one that existed when you first started and no longer is there, so you're chasing the high, so to speak. That anticipatory feeling is almost the most powerful thing. So if you're having an anxiety attack or something like that, it's the fear of what's going to come at the end of it. So when you first notice that initial trigger, say you just read something and you feel a rush of adrenaline kick in, and that adrenaline may be why you do that, because it's actually addicting when you're inside of it, but the progression of it is actually quite damaging. When you first feel that, you have to pick something, doesn't matter what it is. I like picking things that are immediately accessible regardless of where you are, because these things won't just happen when you're at your house sitting down. They may happen on vacation, they may happen in an airport. Pick something that you can do that immediately disrupt the progression of that neural network firing. So you can clap really loud, something that'll shock you and bring your attention back into the present moment. Some people like putting like a wristband or a rubber band on their wrist and slapping themselves. Some people like splashing cold water in your face. That doesn't always work because you don't always have cold water. I like, if I'm standing, this works well. I use Elliot Hulse's. Does everyone remember Elliot Hulse, Strength Camp? Way back when on YouTube. His grounding technique works real well for me, and you can't see it. I'll give you a picture of me doing this elsewhere. Basically, you just jump up and down pretty low to the ground and land on the balls of your heels and just let your body be loose, and everything shakes a little bit. What that does is it kicks your physiological nervous system, so not your brain, into gear, and it brings the attention back into your body. For anything that is triggered by mental rumination, as in you're just in your head, and I have this problem every day, do something that will bring the energy back into your body. So some people will, if you're trying to be more fit, a good pattern interrupt is to just drop down and do a couple push-ups. Do a couple push-ups or do a couple squats, do some jumping jacks, something you can do everywhere. I like picking something that doesn't look too weird in case you're around other people. So that's why a lot of people like the rubber band on the wrist thing. They can just slap themselves. So if you're at a party or something like that and you feel it triggering, you can do it, or just immediately go to the bathroom and splash cold water in your face. Or I guess you could just jump up and down and people will be like, dude, what are you doing? And you're like, trying to disrupt this habit that I'm been working on for 3 weeks. And they'll be like, okay. I mean, whatever, as long as it works. So I like that. I do like push-ups as well, or just get up. So the easiest thing to do is, if you have a problem and it's just sitting, and you have a problem with social media or something like that, or you are reading something and it's getting your panic in your brain going, it's triggering that anxiety, and you notice it, just get up and go do something. Get up and go outside. So return the feeling, to change your sensory environment. Give your brain something else to worry about. So if you're inside without any real distractions around you, get up, go outside, and just walk for 5 minutes. If that takes too much, that's when you go back to the push-up thing. If you can't do that, if you're at work, that's when just getting up and either do some stretching, do something that works for you, that you can do regardless of where you are. Water, rubber band, pick something. Now the nice part about changing a habit is that becomes your new trigger. So for any habit, you need a little micro trigger to start to, now we're going to start branching out of our brain in a different way. So there's an existing neurological network. You just cut that off halfway through. You need to give your brain a different branch to fire down. So immediately after you use your trigger, do something else. So do something else that you want to start doing. If you want to be more fit, continue your workout plan, or use that trigger to pack your gym bag. Use that trigger to go make a cup of tea if you want to stop drinking coffee. Use that trigger to start building a new habit that you want to replace it with. If it's food-based and you detect that you're going for an unhealthy snack, use that trigger to go grab a piece of fruit, or maybe if you had planned to meal prep, go start meal prepping. Use that trigger to branch a new neural network off of that existing habit you wanted to change. You're gonna have to do this for like 3 weeks. So this takes about 6 weeks for a new habit to form. It takes 21 days to be able to recognize and consistently interrupt that old habit. And then it takes about another 3 weeks to ingrain a new habit. So it's going to take about 40 days, I'd say 6 weeks. It's 40 days is what the studies point to, for you to actually build an entirely new neurological network in your brain from the same starting point, but now you're in a different result. So instead, when you feel that anxiety kick in, that anxiety is now going to lead you to maybe doing more push-ups in your house or something like that. But the key is to recognize it and pattern interrupt. Even if you don't actually incur a new behavior after that, even if you don't use that trigger as a method to do something new, as long as you can pattern interrupt successfully and then just not continue that same process, that neurological network will die, which is fine if you wanted to. And then you can start something entirely new, not using that initial, if you don't want an initial anticipatory feeling of scrolling, of the anxiety, if you don't want that associated with anything, then as long as you can pattern interrupt and do something completely different, let it die so that association doesn't exist in your brain anymore. And then start something completely new. That works. But if you want to be able to use that and build a new habit off of it, because that probably won't go away, which is the problem. Those habits that have been ingrained in there for years are really hard to get to go away. So if you can use that and tie it to something that you wanted to change in yourself and improve, that's almost more powerful, because neurons that wire together, so you're leveraging your existing bad tendency to build something new, and you'll have a very strong trunk of the tree, so to speak. So that existing initial neurological structure will be really ingrained in there, but if you can consistently point it to a new healthy habit, then you'll have a very strong base from which to grow. The problem with that is just it's still tempting. If you forget to do it, you have to start over. So if you break that habit, or if you don't pattern interrupt, start the clock over. So people end up moving that 40 days further and further down the road. That's it for this one. Just wanted to go over my techniques for pattern interrupting, for dealing with anxiety. We'll go over maybe some more personal subjects in future videos with changing, but this has been long enough. I'll give you some more shots of the Parkway. Until next video.